In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose. As long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill's Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we're going to be talking about a bunch of big Bears news before the start of free agency. We're going to be talking about baseball, the World Baseball Classic, and the Blackhawks moves. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You get to see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. Season is going on right now, so make sure you head on over to icehogs.com. Get yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, tickets, and more. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Alex, how are you doing on this beautiful last Sunday before the start of NFL free agency?
Yeah, I'm doing very, very well. And you know, it's funny. I was thinking about messaging you yesterday saying, hey, since free agency starts tomorrow, we're recording Sunday night. Do we want to push our show back to cover that too? But we have so much Bears to talk about over this past week as it is. It's almost like we're not going to have time. So you're going to listen to this show. You're going to listen to all the old news and our take on it. And then you're going to be seeing free agents sign. So this is a really interesting time, not only for the NFL, but for the Bears. Did you just see the breaking news that came across a minute ago?
Daniel Hardy?
No, not Daniel Hardy, although that is nice news. Good special team player. This is NFL news.
Ooh, no.
Remember when Trent McDuffie got traded from the Chiefs to the Rams?
Oh, no. Did they reverse that?
No, listen to this. Rams and Trent Duffy reached agreement today on a record 4-year, $124 million extension that includes $100 million guaranteed and makes him the highest paid cornerback in NFL history. So that is a cornerback with a $124 million extension, $100 million guaranteed.
That's insane. Like, how do they do that when they have a $50 million quarterback?
I don't know. I mean, the cap is so weird to maneuver around. And, you know, we're going to get to the point of a lot of what the Bears have been doing. But, you know, we talk about creating cap space, trades, restructuring contracts, cutting guys. I mean, all of that, you have to create as much space as possible, truly. Because I'm telling you, when that clock hits tomorrow and those free agents are signing official deals, when the official legal tampering period begins, you're going to see a lot of guys who are going to be making stupid money and guys that aren't even blue chip elites. Like, you're going to see guys who are like, yeah, okay, I mean, he's a solid guy, I guess, but you're going to see him making stupid money. I mean, this is going to go crazy, I think, because the free agency class, I don't think is all that spectacular. And I think a lot of people would agree. But you're going to see guys making stupid money that's going to make you scratch your head a little bit, I think.
I would agree with that. I mean, it happens every year.
It does, but
it's teams have money and they just go and spend it thinking that, oh, this one player is going to move the needle. And it doesn't always work out that way. I mean, I would say Trey Hendrickson is probably the top prospect. I mean,
yeah.
free agent.
Yes, I would say so, yes.
And he's really good, but I don't think he's like one of the most elite. Like, I wouldn't put him up there with what's his face in Green Bay or Myles Garrett or Max Crosby.
You mean
really
Micah
good.
Parsons? Did you just intentionally say that because it's the Packers?
I don't recognize that guy's name.
Well, yeah, I mean, and think about it too. He's what, 31 now? Trey Hendrickson?
Yep.
He's older.
He's not gonna make his whole contract as is. Whatever they sign him to, he's gonna get cut before the end of it.
Oh, of course. It's just when you look at the situation and you look at just the guaranteed money these guys are going to get, because obviously every contract you have guaranteed money, you got signing bonuses, and other incentives and whatnot. But I think you're going to look at just the guaranteed money at some of these deals and you're going to say, wow, they got the bag. I mean, I'm curious to see when looking at the Bears' upcoming free agents, what's Nashawn Wright going to make? The guy made a Pro Bowl. He had all those takeaways. But if you look at when he wasn't getting the takeaways, there were some struggles in there. But what are teams going to be paying for him? What is Jaquan Brisker going to get? Because I could be wrong. I could be wearing a big egg on my face, but it just feels like he's not coming back. So
Yeah, I
where's he
don't
going to end
think
up and
so.
for what?
And I'm starting to get the hunch that Kevin Byard might not be back either.
I thought it was a guaranteed thing early on. I still think he will be, but maybe not as certain. I mean, he's older. He's a good player, but he's not a blue chip player. He's not
No,
25.
no, but I mean, you look, and I went through the roster earlier today, because I know who are like actual players on the team, but I was looking at who was signed as like a futures contract or added late at the end of the year. Um, and you actually have two safeties on the roster that signed futures contracts, Javarius Owens and Dominique Hampton. So you have two safeties on your roster, but you don't have two starters. You don't have one starter.
I was gonna say, like,
So I mean, are you gonna draft two starters? That seems really aggressive with your draft capital. I would expect them to try to re-sign one of them, and I wonder if they're sort of letting the the market figure out what he is, and then so they're not bidding against themselves.
yeah, I mean that's very possible. I mean, look, speaking of older players, you saw Khalil Mack resigning with the Chargers, right?
Yep.
In a year where he was contemplating retirement. Just to put something in perspective, he got $18 million. dollars.
Yeah.
$18 million. dollars. And listen, I love Khalil Mack. And does he have a little juice still? Yes. He hasn't had double digit sacks in 2 years. Now, I know sack numbers aren't the be all end all completely, but for his position, for what he's known doing, you sign him to get to the quarterback and take him down. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying he can't be a decent player next year, but 18 million for 35-year-old Khalil Mack, that's a lot of money.
I mean, I didn't think he would go for chump change, but I was assuming in the 11 to 13 range. That's what I would have been comfortable with. And if he signed for that, I probably would have liked to have brought him in, but uh, that's just a lot of money. And I know that the cap went up quite a bit. And there's teams out there that have money, and there's teams that are willing to mortgage the future for now. But um, I wouldn't have paid that for him. And like you
No.
said, I love Khalil Mack, but I just I I'm much more conservative with that cap, and that's what it seems like Ryan Poles is. Ryan Poles, I think he's really like there's a lot of space he could create with kicking cans down the road. And I think borrowing from the raise in cap next year and the year after for cap money now. And I don't think he wants to do that. I think he's trying to build it so you have these rookie deals that you're relying on, and then you're staying within that year's cap, so you get all of next year's cap and not borrowing from it. I think that's really what he's trying to do to create a sustained winner. Um, and so otherwise, what the usual route is you spend everything you can while you have a quarterback, and then once it's time for that quarterback to retire or move on, then you just sell everything, suck for a couple of years, draft somebody, and then start the process again. And I don't think he wants to do that.
I don't think so either. And let me just say that quick slip up really ironic that you called him Ryan Pace at first, because Ryan Pace was the
Oh, he
opposite.
was the total opposite. That's what I was funny. I was laughing at myself in my head, and I was like, I said Ryan Pace, and Ryan Pace would borrow from the future to pay for now, and um, so it's I like the approach better. Sometimes I wish, you know, like, all right, I will drop a name here. Arguably the safest of the free agents, Tyler Linderbaum.
Yes.
He is just a really good center. He can fit in any of these systems. He's phenomenal. He's gonna get paid
Oh, he's gonna get
stupid money.
stupid
Like
money.
he might get 25 million a year as a center.
That's what people are speculating.
And I know the Bears freed up money. I would love to have him on this roster. I just you can't you can't have Darnell Wright be due money. Have to do a stopgap for Ozzy Trapillo. Pay you still have some dead money from Drew Dahlman, who we'll get to. You're paying Tooney and you're paying Jackson. So like you can't pay everybody, especially when Caleb is going to be due a contract sooner
Right.
rather than later.
No, I always felt like that was a pipe dream. Obviously, when I say always, I mean since mid last week when we got the really shocking news. But yeah, it would have been a pipe dream to just have him. But oh my God. I mean, if he makes 20, even if he makes 20 million a year, like if you're making 20 million a year and you're not a quarterback, good for you. You're not a quarterback. You're not an elite wide receiver. You're not like one of those blue chip playmakers. Good on you. And yes, linemen are expensive. Like free agent linemen are always very expensive. That's nothing new. But boy, the lengths of money that he's going to get, it's going to be all time wow.
Yeah. So I mean, I can might as well just get to the first news first. Is Drew Dahlman announced he was retiring, and I saw that come through on Facebook from Schefter, and I was like, it's one of those stupid parody
AI, yeah.
accounts.
Uh-huh.
And then I was like, let me go actually look at his Twitter, and sure enough, I was like, oh shit. Um, so that was disappointing. Um, and I mean, it's not the end of the world, and they found a workaround, but he was still so young, and
27.
uh, and I get it. He came from an NFL family. He knows what happens if you play a little too long. What does to your body, especially playing center, where you're just getting guys much bigger than you crash into you every single snap. He recognizes that, and so good for him for recognizing that he's got enough where he feels comfortable with his finances, and he can walk away while he can still walk.
Yeah, I mean, it was completely out of nowhere. And the first thing I thought was, is he okay? Is there some immediate health reason or family reason that he retired? But I mean, we don't really know the gritty details as far as I know. But yeah, I mean, what? Chris Dahlman was his dad, right?
Uh,
Was it Chris Dahlman?
no, it was. I don't remember. His dad was an NFL player though. No, 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 no. Drew Dahlman. Oh, it was Chris Dahlman. Chris
Yeah, that's what I
Dahlman.
thought. Yep.
I was thinking Chris Dolman, and I was like, no, he's black. Uh, uh, yeah. Um, congratulations to him, and better the day he did it than a week later.
Well, I was going to say, like, if this bombshell is going to be put upon you, it's good that it happened now. Because, people were trying to be like, oh, you remember Andrew Luck? I'm like, Andrew Luck was their star quarterback, and it happened in the middle of preseason, in the middle of a game against the Bears. I'll never forget it. That was one of the wildest retirements ever. And I'm not blaming Andrew Luck for retiring. I'm just saying, like, you remember how the Colts kind of had to scramble there with their star guy calling
They're
it
still
quits.
scrambling.
Oh, yeah, touche. They after all these years, because that was 2019, and
They thought they figured it out this year, and then nope.
nope, nope, yeah, no, it's kind of bleak there. But yeah, I mean the timing was ideal before free agency, and where you can figure things out fairly quickly. And it sucks. It does suck that you have to replace a really good center, a Pro Bowl center this year, somebody who outplayed my expectations. Because I remember when they got Dome, and I'm like, okay, he's not a Pro Bowler, but he's solid enough. And he played at a Pro Bowl level this year. And you finally figured out the center, and then you have to figure it out again. It really sucks. But the way I looked at it was you can find another center. They're not going to go into next season without a center.
And they did.
And they did. It just stinks that, you have to use resources to try to get that center figured out again, assuming that the guy they brought in is going to be your primary guy next year. You didn't have to spend much. You're not spending much money on him. You're not spending much draft capital on him.
So they ended up trading for Garrett Bradbury from the Patriots, and he was actually a first round draft pick by the Vikings in 2019. Like he was the number 18 overall pick. So they had high expectations of him, and they paid him a lot of money while he was there. And then they ended up moving on. Patriots signed him to a 2-year deal, and he started every game this season. Played well. He's a very Dahlman-like guy. But the reason that they moved on is he's got like a $5 million hit, and they've got Jared Wilson, who was drafted last year, who they really like, and they had him playing out of position at guard when he's really a center, and they're planning to move him over to center, and made Bradbury, expendable. And the Bears, wasn't negligible, but for a starting caliber offensive lineman, it was a 2027 fifth round pick, which, using the conventional wisdom is like a sixth rounder in this year, which I'm okay with.
Yeah, you didn't give up anything really to get him. I get it's not the most exciting move, but I think that for a year, if he plays the way he has, he's better at some things than others. I'm going to kind of just put my hands up and say, you know what? I trust Ryan Poles' trust in Ben Johnson to tell him what he wants. And I think that you see the fit there with what Ben Johnson is trying to do. So I'm going to put my faith in here.
He also overlapped in college with Joe Thuney.
He did. He did. And you look at last year, he didn't allow a sack.
Nope.
Last year. So take that as you will. As long as he is serviceable and good enough where he is reliable, that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, and I don't think Tyler Linderbaum was ever truly on the table.
I don't think so either. With the money he's going to make, with the number of holes you have on the team, because people can be mad and say, well, they're settling. I get it. I would love to swing for the big home run. I just think the reality was there wasn't the cap room for him. If this was another year and they had more cap room, sure. But right now, you got a lot of holes to fill.
Think about it is, I'm sure they had a roadmap of the cap room that they were able to, they wanted to create, what they were, trying to do. And Drew Dahlman retiring threw a monkey wrench in that. And I don't think, knowing Ryan Poles, I don't think he was just going to do a knee-jerk reaction and just sign the most expensive center in free agency at the last minute. That's not in his plan. I think he just immediately went to a plan B, and who knows how it all turns out, but I think it's a pretty good plan B, and it saves you money over what you had, because Bradbury's got 1 year left on his deal, and I think the Bears owe him like just under 4 million, like 3.7.
Yeah, it's not a ton of money, which is nice. And yeah, to your point, up until last week, they had no idea that Linderbaum was even going to be on the market for them as a place to fix. They weren't thinking, oh, hey, we're going to be in on Tyler Linderbaum because we need a center because up until last week they didn't. And when this, big bombshell happened, that's a lot to pivot to if you have to pivot. Like it's one thing to make a trade and acquire somebody. It's another thing to be like, all right, well, we got to pivot. We got to sign one of the most expensive free agents out there. That's going to make a shit ton of money. It's just really hard to do. I mean, really, the hopes for Bears and Linderbaum was just the fact that they needed a center and he was available.
Yep. So I think they're making the best out of the situation.
Yeah,
And I
I
don't
think
think
that's a
they're
good way to
done.
put it.
I'll get to that when we get to the draft, but I don't think they're done. Um, Also, the other big news is DJ Moore gone.
I really hate seeing him go. I really, really hate seeing him go. I did not want him to leave. But you look at the trade and you look at the money it freed up. You look at the fact that they got a second round pick for a fifth round pick. I mean, the return for the Bears is pretty darn good. The Bills got themselves a really nice wide receiver, but I think I could speak for a lot of people around the NFL, just outside Bears fandom, just outside Bills fandom, where you say, wow, the Bills got better, but they paid a pretty hefty price for him.
Yeah, I think this ends up being a good deal for both sides.
I
Is
think so too,
DJ Moore is going to come in and be the best wide receiver on that team.
by far, because Diggs is gone.
Um, and so he's gonna be the best wide receiver on that team that was desperate for wide receiver help. And they have to pay him a lot of money. The Bears didn't eat any of that money on the contract, and they had to give up, a second and a fifth, so essentially like 100 some spots. So it was a pretty penny to pay, and that's about what I expected for a DJ Moore if he wasn't included in a package like for a Max Crosby. And it doesn't sound like that was something that the Raiders were interested in.
No, and I will obviously talk about the Max Crosby thing in a minute, but I mean, when I look at the situation now, I say, okay, I don't like the fact that we had to move on from DJ Moore, but you are where you are now, and you have made yourself more available to make bigger moves to the league because you have more cap space, you have another draft pick, you've given yourself more ammunition. And I think with DJ Moore leaving, the Bears need to see Rome Odunze become wide receiver one. I still think you need to draft somebody. I still think you need to bring somebody in. But this is Rome Odunze's time to be that number 9 pick. It has to be. You drafted him that high, he has to be. And I feel good about Luther Burden. I feel good about the fact that you have Colson Loveland on the team. And I like what Roma Dunze can do as a route runner, as a blocker, but you got to cut down on the drops. Those are just not acceptable. And now is the time to prove your worth. Because I don't know if they draft somebody, I don't know if you're going to be looking at that draft pick as a top 2 guy. Unless they do, you're looking at your top 2 guys being Roma Dunze and Luther Burden.
I want to deal that when we get to draft stuff. But I have a lot of thoughts here. We also are in the need for or in the market for a linebacker. Is Tremaine Edmonds was told he was going to be released, and that's going to free up a lot of space. And whatever Hardy made, you had around $30 million after those moves, which I was talking to Gary the other day, and he was like, "Oh, you got to make these big moves." And I was like, $30 million is not a lot of money.
Now it's not.
Like you're gonna probably re-sign a couple guys, and mostly depth guys, or and then you're gonna build to the draft, and maybe re-sign one of your starters, like a Byard or a Brisker. I just don't see them being in the market for any big time free agents. I don't expect anything until that wave 2 of free agency.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of where you are right now, unless something surprising happens. But no, I'm with you. I mean, the fact that they were able to create this flexibility is good because you had no flexibility before. Having some flexibility is a hell lot better than none. But to your point, that doesn't mean you're going to be making massive moves. Doesn't mean you can't make effective moves. You could find value in a number of places, but I mean, there were several massive moves that we already know are not happening, on top of obviously we just talked about it with uh, Linderbaum not being an option because they went in another direction, even though he hasn't signed yet as of right now. And then, they didn't get Max Crosby. Obviously, we'll talk about that in a minute. I just wonder when they evaluate this free agency, is it okay? You're just going to work on building depth, and then you're going to really work the draft to get those starters in there. There is something interesting. I don't know if you heard Courtney Cronin talk. I think it was on ESPN 1000 the other day. She says that she has an inkling that the Bears will get those comp picks. If they
I,
get those comp picks, that is huge.
I think they will. I'm I went from really mad about it to I think you're probably at 75-80%. Yeah, they will. Um,
They better, man. I mean, that makes a huge amount of difference. Because think about it. You got that second pick in the DJ Moore trade. That's big. If you get a couple mid-round picks from these comp picks,
you
that's
get
a hell lot of ammo.
they'll only get one comp pick this year, so they'll get that third rounder, and they don't qualify it for any more this year, but they could
Right. I
next
meant
year.
the second round pick and the comp pick
Yeah,
together.
so if they get that comp pick, which I think they will, that puts you at four picks in the top of round 100, which is good.
That's good. That's good.
Um, but I just looking at their roster, like quarterback, you're good at. You could run it back at running back. I think they'll look to upgrade, but I think that's a luxury at this point and not a necessity. I think
And
you
I would have sung a different tune last year at this time, but right now, with Ben Johnson's scheme and the way he runs the offense and the way DeAndre Swift responded to that offense last year, I do agree that I think you can run it back and be okay.
like I guarantee if they had the opportunity to draft Jeremiah Love, they would. Um,
God, could
with
you
like
imagine?
absolutely without a doubt that he would be the pick if they could. Uh, but I don't think it's a necessity, but it's a luxury. Um, Wide receiver, I think I think you probably should draft somebody with like a Luther Burden type role where you're going to build them into your offense with the eye for the future. And Luther Burden ended up blossoming much earlier than they expected, but he was option 3. And I think that's what you're looking to do. So it's to start the year, you're looking at Roma Dunze, Luther Burden, and Jade. I think they're going to expect Jade Walker to step up, and then obviously Colston Loveland. That's who, but I think they're going to try to upgrade earlier than most people expect at wide receiver position.
Yeah, and I think so too. I'm not convinced that they're going to be drafting their next number one guy. That's my whole point with
No, no, but
Roma Dunze, is that he's got to be that number one guy.
if they spent one of those two second round picks on a wide receiver, I wouldn't be shocked.
I wouldn't either. I wouldn't either.
So tackle, I don't know if I'm spending early draft capital on tackle because Darnell Wright is still on his rookie contract, and you like Ozzy Trapillo, and he's gonna be back at some point. I don't know the current estimate. I think you've got to sign a veteran, and I've got a name, and it's one I floated by, but a lot of what ifs had to happen in order for it to happen. And the first one was he had to decide not to retire. Then he had to be cut by his current team. Then he had to want to come to Chicago. And we're first two down. That's Taylor Decker from the Lions, who had a Pro Bowl season playing with Ben Johnson. I think he would be a good fit. He gets to come back for another year. It's not an offense that he's totally unfamiliar with or a coach that he's unfamiliar with. It's one that he knows and likes. And he gets to come back for another year and in a not completely unfamiliar situation. And and he decided he wanted to come back for another season. So I think that works out because you're not relying on him, long term. You're expecting Ozzy Trapillo long term, and you don't know when he's going to be back. But that allows you to put him on.
That injury, though, I
If
don't
he
know.
comes back, it'll be around December, probably.
That's a big if.
And if he doesn't come back this season, then you have Taylor Decker there in that role, and I think you can live with him for a year. I think he's probably going to be more than you wanted to spend, but I think it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Taylor Decker is I wouldn't expect him, if he were to come here, I wouldn't expect him to play like in prime Taylor Decker. But I do think that, to your point, coming back to a Ben Johnson offense where he's familiar with the coach, he's familiar with the division, with the team, I think that's a nice plug-in right there because even if he's not physically as good as he was in the past, you know that he's going to have the smarts and the IQ to play the position well enough. I mean, that's at least a guy you could say, you know what, I trust him to protect Caleb Williams on that left side.
He knows the coach. The coach knows what to expect of him. He's not going to come in and not be a culture fit because he knows what Ben Johnson expects from his players. And think about it is last year before Ozzy Trapillo became Ozzy Trapillo, we went with Braxton Jones and Theo Benedet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yes, we did.
Taylor Decker is a step up from that. Is he a step up from where Ozzy Trapillo was at the end of the season? That I can't say, but he's a definite step up from Braxton Jones, who you did everything possible to have him not win the job.
They would have rather put you in a Greedo mask out there than
They actually reached out to my agent about that. And I
hey,
told them I've got a trick knee and I didn't think I could do it. And they're also offering me $15 an hour. So didn't want to do it. But they gave every opportunity for anybody else to win that job other than Braxton Jones because Ben does not like Braxton Jones. And I don't think Poles likes him either. And I mean, maybe a fine guy, but so you're going in next season with um, who do you got on this roster at tackle spot?
well, they
Uh,
brought Theo Benedett back, right?
Yeah, they've got Benedett, Trapillo for whatever um, situation they're in. Darnell Wright and um I guess Karan Amagaji.
You ever think that's going to be a thing?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
He didn't,
Maybe as
did
a
he play
guard.
one snap last year? I don't think he did.
I don't think he did, but I think they're looking at him as guard. Um or maybe as a swing guy if absolutely necessary. Um but if you go in with Taylor Decker, Benedett is your swing guy on either side, and then Amagaji is the guy if there's nothing else without doing anything else. They might bring in another veteran or draft somebody late, uh, but I don't think they're gonna try to draft anybody early. Um, Center, you've got Garrett Bradbury and Ryan Bates, who you completely forgot was on this team, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of remember him. He rings a bell.
So he's probably your backup center, and
Yep.
I think they're going to draft a center in the top 100 picks. I really do.
That I could see. That I could definitely see because
Bradbury is going to be the stopgap, and
he's only
then they're
got
going to
1 year left on his deal, right?
yeah.
So, yeah.
So I think they're going to draft somebody to replace him. Um, you've got your starting guards. I think you're all right at guard because you really like Luke Newman. And Ryan Bates could step in, and Amagaji could step in. I think you're okay at guard. Tight end, I think you're okay. Komet and Loveland and Steven Carlson, I think you're okay. Cornerback, you've got a lot of guys. Um,
But are they going to be healthy?
I mean, that's for them to decide. I'm going to make the assumption they're all going to be healthy. Uh, but you've got Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon as your slot and your number one, and then Tyreek Stevenson and Terrell Smith fighting it out for that other outside spot. Zoff Frazier, Josh Blackwell, um, coming in. Like they might bring back CJ Gardner Johnson to be a depth guy.
Well, I think with CJ Gardner Johnson is if you bring him back, you can say, okay, he's a versatile guy and versatility is what Dennis Allen likes. So it would make sense if they did. I
I
wouldn't be
think I
surprised if
think
they
they
did.
will. I think so. It's going to be a low cost
He's not going to
move.
cost a lot. Yeah.
No. Like we talked about center, I mean the safety. You really don't have starting caliber guys.
No.
I think I think you almost have to sign either Byard or Brisker and then draft somebody early.
Yes.
Linebackers, right now you've got TJ Edwards and Sewell and Hippolyte going for that number 2 spot, and then Sewell's brother. That's who you have on the roster. I think you're going to want depth there because TJ
hmm
Edwards is not in your long term plans, and I don't know how good Hippolyte and Sewell are going to be long term either.
Well, yeah, and I mean, added to the fact that TJ Edwards, he was injured a lot of last year, and when he did come back, he was just not quite the same. So he's not old, but he's got some miles on him. I mean, he was very good for the Bears the first few years, but we saw the struggles after the injury last year. Yeah, I mean, and I think linebacker, think about this too, is your top two linebackers last year in the Dennis Allen defense, those were Matt Eberflus guys. So when you look at the whole Tremaine Edmonds situation, I mean, really, it's a matter of, okay, he's a good player. He had a really nice year last year up until the injury, but that was a Eberflus scheme type of guy, and he was going to be making more money next year than he's likely worth. So that all makes sense. It's just you're going to fill that void, I think, with a more Dennis Allen type of guy.
I might as well just say this, but I think they're going to re-sign DeMarco Jackson. I think it makes sense.
Yes,
I think he's a better fit than any of these other guys for Dennis
yes.
Allen. And we saw when he was given the opportunity, he played well. And the defense looked better when he was in there versus the other guys. And so I think they're going to re-sign him for a low cost deal. And I think that'll make your need for linebacker probably drop down a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit. Um, and then where the trouble comes is your defensive line. Do you know which defensive tackles you have on your roster?
Who Bob what pants? What's his nuts? And who that guy?
I'll give you a hint. There's only two and a half of them
Two and a half.
because one is a hybrid. It's Grady Jarrett at 200 years old,
Yeah.
Javon Dexter, who
Uh-huh.
I like him. I just don't think he's a fit on this defense.
Yeah, I kind
He
of
was
agree.
drafted by the other regime.
Correct.
Um, so I don't think he fits well. And then Shamar Turner, who is a guy that they can play on the edge or inside, more of a pass rusher though than a run stopper. So I think I know everybody's going to want to draft an edge rusher early. I think defensive tackle is your biggest need.
I don't disagree. I mean, you do need more pass rush. You do need more guys to get to the quarterback. But here's the thing is you got to be really strong on that line because pass rush doesn't just come from edge rushing. I mean, hell, look at Dennis Allen's defense. Look at some of those nickel blitzes and safety blitzes that he was able to use at times. I mean, he's going to try to draw pass rush from a number of different areas. Do I want some pass rushers? Yes, absolutely. Some edges would be great. I mean, I don't think they'd be great. I think they'd be a necessity. But I do agree that you really need to fix that line. And you're going to have to create more pass rush from edges and from other places on your defense.
Yeah, I think you're going for a run stopper early, which is the least sexy position you could probably pick in the first round, but
But
you
it's
need it
very
desperately.
important.
I I don't know how much activity they're going to have at the edge. Um, I really think they're going to have to. I mean, they have to trust Dio Dengbo because you paid him. I
Do you
know
know
you
how
don't
much
like it.
that makes my blood
Oh,
boil?
I get it. We all were upset by that signing right away. There was no. I don't think anybody was like, "Oh yeah, that was awesome." I think we were all scratching our heads. But between Shamar Turner, Sweat, Dio, and Austin Booker, I think that's your primary rotation. Unless somebody just absolutely falls to you, I don't think that's going to be as much of a priority as people really think.
I mean, listen, like I said, you just need to get more pressure on the quarterback, however that may be. If that means more nickel blitzes, if that means creating pressure from other areas than just edge, if that is just trying to scheme as a unit, like you've seen other teams do, where you don't have that one game wrecker, but you have that unit that is able to push the other offensive line back, so be
You know,
it.
you know what's going to help? Not not being in short, third and short. If they're in third and seven, third and eight, that makes it a whole lot easier to get that pressure in those sacks.
Yes,
And so if
that's true.
addressing the ability to stop the run is going to be huge for this defense to do what it wants to do. When you're just getting gashed, then it makes everything harder.
Well,
So
and I also think too, uh, let me entertain you with a question. If Kyler Gordon was healthy last year, I'm not saying they would have been some great team at getting pressure and getting sacks, but you got to imagine it would have been better, right?
I mean, I think so, but I think CJ Gardner Johnson filled that role as far as a blitzer really well.
He
Um,
did. He did.
it
I'm
was
just
the
saying I think
coverage.
Kyler Gordon is even better
It
at
was the
that.
coverage where you really missed Kyler Gordon.
Correct. Correct. That is true. That is true. I still think if you had a healthy Kyler Gordon, you would have been able to do that a little bit better. Because I just think Kyler Gordon, when he's healthy, is a blue chip type player.
I think so too. So, looking at the roster that you have in place now, and now you have like, I don't know, 27 million ish, 26 million ish. I think you probably try to sign Brisker, Byard, and a a Decker type guy, a 1 year guy, a veteran. Um, and then you just use the rest of that money to find low end guys like, DeMarco Jackson, CJ Gardner Johnson, um, maybe, uh, maybe another cornerback, a veteran cornerback, a low end guy. Um, I, I think that's kind of maybe another defensive tackle, low cost guy. I think that's pretty much what you're going to see. They did not restructure anybody's contracts to give them more flexibility at this point. They might still, but they haven't, which makes me think they're not going to be active players in the first wave of free agency.
Yeah, that's fair. Now, if they were to restructure some contracts, who do you think it would be? Cole Kmet as one candidate?
Um, Probably Sweat.
Yeah, sure.
Um, that and Dio. Uh, Both of those guys, you could do Komet. You can create a lot of money pretty quickly by doing those. It just they're trying not to. So I think their plan is to not spend big. Um, and I think a Taylor Decker is probably going to cost you around 10 million for the year. And I'm gonna guess a Bayard is going to be 8 to 11 per year for a 3 year deal. But you can structure that a little bit, to fit in your cap better. But I think if you do those, re-sign DeMarco Jackson, bring back CJ Gardner Johnson, I think then you sort of see what shakes out as that wave two, wave three of free agency. So wave one is that those big money deals that happen in the tampering period. That second wave is that uh, first week or two after the official signing period starts. And then the third wave is after the draft. And I think they'll be active in the second and third waves because they're going to try to sign a bunch of guys to see how they fit in here.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, they're going to be looking for guys that fit a scheme. And I mean, obviously, you can look at Ben Johnson's scheme in the offense and Dennis Allen's on the defense. And kind of to the point I was making earlier, I think you're going to build a lot of depth with some of those signings. And not only is it just like, okay, this is your second, third, fourth guy, but as I mentioned earlier, They like moving parts. They like guys that are versatile. So it's almost like you're signing some quote utility players almost when you're looking at a Ben Johnson scheme or a Dennis Allen scheme, particularly on defense. Like when you find some of those other CJ Garner Johnson types that can play multiple roles and some of these other guys. So depth is important. I think having versatile kind of utility type guys is important now, especially. I mean, just in this game where there's so many injuries, you don't put all your eggs in one basket. But yeah, I mean, I would not be surprised if it's a very quote unexciting offseason with all these holes. But if you're able to find value and add some depth and you add some guys in the draft that can start, and maybe you find some sneaky starting guys that don't cost you a lot of money that you just
One,
kind of bring in. And I mean, it happened last year.
one guy I would not be shocked, and I think if you do bring him in, you're cutting DeAndre Swift, would be Travis Etienne. That's it.
I mean,
That's
I could
one to
see
keep
it.
your eye on.
I could see it.
And I think they're going to see what his market looks like. If somebody's willing to give him really stupid money, they're not going to go for him. But if he doesn't go really early, I think you could see it a something in place and then move on from Swift because that would be an upgrade for this system.
Right. Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. Wouldn't it be really funny if tomorrow happens, people listen to this podcast and the Bears make some just unexpected crazy ass move?
Well, I'm going through and like the top who PFF has as their top free agents. And I'm other than Travis Etienne, I don't see anybody that they've freed up money to do or that looks like they would be somebody they would bring in and a game changer. Um,
Nah, I know.
uh, I mean, you could look at like a DJ Reader, but I think he's going to be expensive, and he's in his 30s on the wrong side of 30. Um, I mean, you could try to sign a different safety. Boye Mafi from Seattle. Um, they won't want Debo. They're not going to go after Kyle Pitts, even though there's no talk of him getting franchise tagged, or maybe did they
I
not? Did they not tag
yeah,
him?
I'm not expecting that.
You're not going after Jawan Jennings or Rashid Shaheed. You're not going after old ass Joey Bosa. Not going after Aaron Rodgers. You're not going after 37-year-old Calais Campbell. Even though he's still good, I just, man, he's old. Um, you're not going after one of the expensive guards, or probably not the expensive tackles. Um, I just, I don't see where you go. Uh, could they go after Jadeveon Clowney? I don't think so. I think he's happy with Dallas, and I think they're going to re-sign him there. Um, maybe a J.K. Dobbins. Um, yeah, I don't. I'm on the top 44. Dallas Goddard, no. Tariq Woolen, no. I don't see anybody that they would definitely go after.
No,
Bobby
I mean
Wagner's
I don't
200 years
either.
old.
Yeah.
Um, so I just don't expect them to be, and it's partially they don't have the money, partially their biggest holes and the players available aren't aligning super well. And I think that they weren't planning to be big spenders in that first wave anyway. I think it's just those three things kind of aligned.
Yeah.
Um, so the way that they're drafted looking is they've got the number 25 pick, which is their first round. They've got Buffalo's first or second round pick, which is number 57. They've got their second rounder, which is number 60. They've got their third rounder, which I don't know what it is off the top of my head, somewhere around 89-ish. Um, and then I think they'll have that comp pick at the third rounder. And just looking at who could be getting comp picks, I'm guessing that pick will be right around 100, maybe 101, somewhere right around there. They'll have their fourth rounder and then two seventh round picks.
Two
So
more Kyle Manung guys.
stupid Ruckers.
Stupid Rutgers.
So,
Stupid.
I'm gonna guess that you're gonna see trade backs. I just really feel
Hey,
that.
he's done that plenty of times.
Yeah. Especially in that number 25. If they're not in love with anybody and the way that's shaping up, um, like it could shape up pretty bad for them at 25. They might just want to move out of there and let one of those teams that are quarterback needy that don't want to draft in the top five, one of the quarterbacks that's not Fernando Mendoza, to come back in the first round and get one. Um, I think that could happen. And you get that quarterback tax if they're coming back for one. But just as it is, stands right now, and looking at the way all I can do at this point is we haven't seen uh, the pro days yet. Um, but just going by, a rough top 100 board, it's looking like that number 25 is a defensive lineman or a safety was going to be available. So I'm going to guess that's probably the direction you're going to go unless you trade back. I bundled pick 57 and 60 because it's going to be like similar type players who's available in that range. Um, that could be an edge rusher, could be a safety, could be a linebacker. That's kind of that sweet spot there. Um, that that number 89 pick, your third rounder, I'm going to guess that's probably going to be a center or a wide receiver based on kind of where the current rankings are. And we'll see how these things start to shake out as we get closer to the draft. But kind of right now on March 8th, I think center or wide receiver in that third. And then pick 100, I think whatever, a wide receiver or center, depending on what you draft in 89, or cornerback. That's kind of where I see things playing out currently.
Yeah, that's all fair.
Um, that makes you better, but it keeps you in your cap position. Uh, you're just gonna have to have everybody step up and be healthy and play hard, and you have to see the growth of your wide receivers because that's gonna be key.
Yeah, I mean, listen, losing DJ Moore, I know there was inconsistency, especially early on with Caleb Williams. They didn't seem like they were on the right page a lot of the times early on, whether it was last year or even a bit earlier this year. I don't like making as much about the final play of the season as maybe others. I do think there was a miscommunication there, and I do
I
think that DJ was banged up and really, really hurt.
My concern was not, he's probably exhausted in that game. I don't think he's fully healthy. I get it. What bugged me is when they asked him about it afterwards and about fans being upset, and he said they shouldn't be betting on the game anyway, or something along those lines. And that bugged me
Fair. That's fair.
because if you don't recognize the fact that, we've been so starved for this team to be a Super Bowl contender, and we had an opportunity, and uh, a bad a bad play on DJ's part for whatever reason. It's on DJ. Uh, is he should care more. He should care more, and he should have apologized to the fans in that moment. Even
That's
if he
fair.
didn't feel it,
That's fair.
it should have been. I get why they're upset, and next year That's not gonna happen.
No,
Like
I get it.
I think
I
that's a
get it.
much different visual.
That's fair. It's fair. I just don't think it speaks to him as a player because I think he is a very, very good player. I think that he is somebody you can look at as a top two wide receiver, on a scheme that fits with a quarterback that he's on the same page with. I mean, even with some of those blemishes, I do think that you have to look at the big moments of DJ Moore and at least appreciate it and understand that it takes a lot for somebody to come up big in those moments, whether it was the overtime catch against the Packers or the game-winning catch against the Packers in the playoffs, or, other big moments that he's had. I mean, he's got a lot of good qualities about him as a player, and it was pretty clear that his teammates did like him the way they were reacting on social media. So I don't think there was any bad blood or rift in there. I mean, we don't really know for sure. We're not in that locker room, but I think it's one of those situations where it's a loss, but you can make up for that loss in many different ways. And while I don't think DJ Moore is ever going to be lauded as that Pro Bowl caliber wide receiver, I do think that you can look at DJ Moore and acknowledge the fact that he's been your best wide receiver over the past few years that he's been here. And not only that, I mean that's kind of stating the obvious, but he's one of the better receivers you've had in a while. I mean, you can look at some of the other guys you've had, whether it was Jeffrey or Marshall or Allen Robinson. Maybe he didn't have quite the talent level that those guys had, but he was definitely somebody you can trust like you trusted those guys in big moments. So, at the
I'm
end,
going to say
so
this. This
yeah,
this is a hot take,
yeah.
and I have no basis for this. I have no insider information. I don't think Ben Johnson loved him. I think they tried to make it work. Um, I think he tried to be a rah-rah guy because if you notice when he was frustrated with DJ, he he came out differently than when he was frustrated with Luther Burden. And I think he knew he couldn't ride him like he wants to like coach people. I don't think he was ever fully a Ben Johnson guy. And it worked out because he's talented and he DJ can fit in to most systems. But I think Luther Burden is going to be the dude that steps up and becomes the one.
I mean, you make a good point. I'm not saying that they didn't dislike each other per se, or Ben Johnson didn't like. I mean, I know that's not what you're saying either, but I think there is something to that. Hey, you know what? This isn't exactly a Ben Johnson type guy, and it's better to look elsewhere where you could find more Ben Johnson type guys like Luther Burden is. Because when you drafted Luther Burden, you say, oh, that's a yards after the catch guy. That's a guy that can make explosive plays with yards after the catch. That is what Ben Johnson does.
I don't think there was bad blood. I don't think he hated him as a person.
No.
I think just the way, and this is not one of those bad things. I think it just fits, just don't quite align. And, just like a Jervon Dexter, I think he's a good player. And I think he'll end up playing well, next year somewhere. I don't think the Bears will re-sign him, and it's just not quite a fit for the system that he ended up going into after the system he was drafted into. So it's, I just, I think that was just one of those things where Ben looked at it as like, I think we can see Jade step up, Rome step up, and obviously Luther step up, and there's nothing stopping them from drafting somebody fairly high. Uh, and you've also got Colston Loveland. I think, Ben was just like, hey, DJ is a really good player, but we need to make some sacrifices, and that just seems like the most logical one.
No, I get it. That's totally fair. And I don't necessarily think you're wrong either. And I can't help but wonder if DJ Moore deep down knew that, after a while last year, that he was probably going to be gone, even though he was under contract. Because they signed that DJ Moore extension before Ben Johnson got here. And
Mhm.
once Ben Johnson got here, he implemented his system. And, maybe DJ Moore had a hankering that it's like, well, him and I, as in him and Caleb, didn't always align. We saw that a lot in 2024. And you saw some weird alignment issues early on as well, where they weren't quite on the same page. That obviously got better as time went on.
It
But
never got good enough though for
yeah,
the caliber of players those two players are.
I don't disagree. I don't
That's
disagree.
that's where I think that the Ben Johnson looks at and goes, it just didn't get better. It wasn't the standard is the standard, and no matter how talented you are, if you're not on time and on rhythm with our quarterback, you become expendable.
Yeah, I still just there's still part of me that thinks, man, he was clutch. He came up. I mean,
Oh yeah,
aside
absolutely.
aside from the Rams playoff game, he came up clutch a number of times. And
I mean, he has one of the biggest catches in this franchise's history.
yes, that play against the Packers in overtime is an all-time great moment for this franchise.
Yeah,
It
I
truly
don't hate him.
is.
I think it's the little things. It's it's just the little things. He's a supremely talented guy, justifying a team taking on his entire contract and giving you a second round pick. It's there's a reason. There's a reason that all happened. And I think Buffalo is going to get a player they love. I think Josh Allen is going to absolutely love DJ Moore. But it just, you needed to make a sacrifice, and that one made a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's again, it's not fun, but I get it. So thank you, DJ,
Yeah.
and we wish you the best of luck in Buffalo. It is kind of funny for all the shortcomings with Luke Getsy and Justin Fields. That year he was in that system with that quarterback, that was his best year. Like he fit that system really, really well, and him and Justin Fields were on point. Like, say what you will about Justin Fields as an overall player, but him and DJ did have that connection. Caleb Williams is a hell lot better than Justin Fields, but the connection wasn't quite the same. What I did, though, really like about DJ outside of the clutch factor, I did like when they used him in other situations. Like, there were times where you put him in a situation where he needed to get yards after the catch, and he could. There were situations where you used him as a running back that didn't work that great all the time, but there were occasions where you did kind of make it work with some of the trick plays and misdirections. But you're just gonna have to make do with what you have and add on to what fits Ben Johnson more, and it could be better in the end for what this team is trying to do.
Yeah. So way more to come next time we record because at that point we'll have seen how free agency is starting to shape out. And, you know, uh I think Malik Willis, is he one of the top 15 players in this free agency class? No. Will he go right away? I think so.
Oh yeah, and he'll get some nice money. There'll be a team looking for a quarterback, and that's going to be interesting because you're hearing the Bagent rumors, and I really don't know if Bagent's going to get moved or not. Or if they're, I'm not saying he's going to, I think the likelihood of him getting moved is pretty small. I just wonder how serious teams will be calling Ryan Poles about him or continue to be calling Ryan Poles about him. But I think,
It won't be for at least a week, I don't think, because right now you don't have to trade anything. And I think Bears rightfully have a high price tag on there. And I forgot which insider said that, but they said you'd be surprised at how high the Bears have a price tag on him. And I told you, first round pick at least.
sure,
And but there's a lot of quarterbacks out there. You're gonna have Joe Flacco and Malik Willis and Aaron Rodgers and Kyler Murray and
Marcus Mariota,
Marcus Mariota. You'll have Justin Fields, and
Gardner Minshew, I think
Gardner
is a free
Minshew.
agent
You'll have Kirk Cousins.
with
You'll
his
have
Kane and Walker.
what's his name, Geno Smith.
Yeah, because he's getting cut, right?
He's going to be cut. So
Yep.
yeah, there's a number of guys, not ones you want to do long term, probably. Maybe one of those guys, but I think it's one of those teams won't be as desperate until they see the guy they want sign early. And I think the quarterback movement's going to be pretty quick.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Should we talk about the Max Crosby thing?
Yeah.
How are you feeling?
I would not give up two first rounders for him, I don't think.
I think a lot of people would agree with you. I'd be slightly more tempted, but I understand.
Because you're paying him a lot of money.
Correct.
And uh and like I said, is the way that this Bears salary cap is, you're gonna have to borrow from the future to be able to afford him. And you're not gonna be able to replenish, like you're gonna have holes that you desperately need to fill because he's not gonna be your run stuffer up the middle. He's not addressing the interior run defense. And if you don't have a first rounder to plug that, you're getting a lesser caliber player most likely.
Right.
Um, I just I think they probably offered a first and maybe a mid round pick next year or a first and a player. I'm sure they made an offer. I'm sure there was a conversation, but that Ravens offer was really big.
It was a huge offer. And one thing to keep in mind too is not only was it a big offer, but let's say you offered something similar. Like really like you had two first round picks you'd give, they'd have two first round picks. You had a better record than the Ravens. You made the playoffs, they didn't. So their first round picks are higher and more valuable than yours. Keep that in mind too.
Yeah, I mean they may have, and the expectation is with a Max Crosby next year's first rounder is not going to be very good either.
Right.
So you're probably looking at you're probably right. Maybe the Bears did offer two first rounders, and the first two rounders from the Ravens looked way more enticing.
Mm-hmm. That all matters. You can't compare one first round pick to another first round pick offer.
Yeah, I mean, like uh when which trade was it when um like there's always teams where they feel like that first round pick is going to be much better for the upcoming year, and you gamble. So, and I don't expect Trey Hendrickson either. I think I think you're going to ride with what you got and maybe a draft pick.
You just got to make that pass rush more efficient.
And maybe things the calculus changes if Byard and Brisker don't get the markets that they expected, and you're able to bring both of them back for a much more reasonable price tag. Then you're like, okay, well, I don't need to draft a safety this year. So uh, I, there's a lot of things that could change between now and the draft. Everything I said about the draft was based on March 8th before free agency.
Right.
But I just, the Max Crosby, I love Max Crosby. He's a competitor. I'm sure he would have loved to come here,
Mm-hmm.
but it's, uh, it's just, that's a big, price to pay for him.
It is a big price. And you knew it was going to be a bigger price. And I think there might be just the reality that it was a pipe dream. I'm sure the Bears listened. I'm sure the Bears made offers. I think that there was enough smoke in the air to say the Bears were serious about offers, but they were going to draw a line somewhere, and the Raiders are going to try to get the absolute best value they can for one of the more valuable assets in the NFL. So, yeah, it makes sense that it didn't happen. In the moment, it might have been kind of a bummer because the thought of having Max Crosby and Montez Sweat was a pretty good dream, but it ended up being a pipe dream. So, onward you go.
Yep. So, uh, that's that's where that lies. He's not a bear. Linderbaum's not going to be a bear, and the Bears are not going to bring in anybody huge name this free agency most likely. They'll bring in people, but I think temper your expectations.
Yeah, I mean, bringing in somebody, whether it's depth, whether it's as a starter, even if it's not the most exciting name, one thing I do try to look at is system fit. Because you can plug somebody in that might not be a huge name, might not be the highest paid person, and you can put them in one system and they'll excel. You can put them in another system and they'll fail. I mentioned earlier about Dennis Allen looking for those versatile type guys. Like that's good for his system. That's how he operates. You put that in another defensive system, that might not bode well. I mean, look at Matt Eberflus. His system was very different than Dennis Allen's. So you saw Tremaine Edmonds and you saw TJ Edwards get signed by him. I know Tremaine Edmonds wasn't the greatest when he was here, considering the money he made. And I do think he played really well last year up until the injury.
And I
But
think he's going to get paid.
yes,
The reason he didn't get nobody traded for him is because of how big his contract was.
Yes, correct. He's not
And
he's not worth $19 million next year.
the Bears had no motivation to, eat part of the salary to
No.
get like there's no like need for that. Is you get all that cap relief just by cutting him. So, you cut him, and I think the hope was that I know there's going to be a market for him, and I think he's probably going to make about 12 million a year. So somebody's going to pay him good money. It's just why would you give up a mid-round pick and pay him over the market value? The only reason you do that is you're desperate and you're like, I don't think he's going to sign here otherwise, and you just get a player that's under contract that the signing bonus is already paid. Um,
Right.
so you could probably restructure that, but I think the cost was probably too high to get it when they know he's going to be cut, and they would rather take their chances to try to sign him in free agency.
Right. And people might be wondering why didn't the Bears trade him and try to get something? Well, who's going to be offering draft capital and wanting to take all that money?
Right. That's exactly where it is. I think there's definitely teams that want him. It's just they're not gonna pay his salary and give you draft capital.
Yeah. So again, I know that Tremaine Edmonds wasn't everybody's favorite at times, but again, I thought he played, for being in a new system and a Dennis Allen system, played pretty well last year until the injury. Wasn't as good afterwards, but yeah, it just the long-term fit wasn't there. The money wasn't there. I appreciate him for the good moments. I appreciate him for the it's Chicago moments, but it really made no sense bringing him back at this point.
I I would not be surprised to see him sign during the tampering period. Maybe not the first few hours, but before the league year
Oh
opens.
yeah,
I
he'll
wouldn't be
he'll land
surprised.
somewhere. He's only 27. He's like the oldest 27 ever.
He's played like he's gonna be on his third contract. No,
Yeah.
fourth contract. Fourth contract at 27. That's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Where do you want to go from here?
Well, have you been watching the WBC?
I have. I watched the game today with the Netherlands and the world records.
The Netherlands. It still just makes me laugh.
Gary pointed out that they part of their kingdom, they Curaçao is part of the kingdom of the Netherlands, and there's a bunch of players from there. Except Didi Gregarious is from the Netherlands,
That I knew. That I knew.
but
It's
he's
just
not
you
really
wouldn't
an
think of
MLB
it.
player anymore.
No, no. He
What
hasn't
does he
played
play
in
in
several
Mexico?
years. Yeah,
He
he
plays in
hasn't
like Mexico, like he's Kenny Powers.
he hasn't played in the majors in a while. I know that. But yeah, I watched last night when I got home. I was actually in Wisconsin yesterday. I was repping a bunch of Bears gear, walking around the streets of Wisconsin. But when I got home, I watched the USA Great Britain game. First of all, Great Britain, find better uniforms. They're so bland and
Yeah.
boring. So bland and boring. Second of all, it was fun watching the Cubs being kind of in the middle of that because, like, okay, they're getting shut out going to the fifth inning, and you're just waiting for the US to wake up. And PCA hit that double, and you had Alex Bregman hitting a few sac flies. He was hitting the ball really hard the other night. So that's been fun to watch. And then, did you see the Schwarber home run he hit last night?
I did.
What a monster shot. That was pretty awesome. So I've had fun watching it. Obviously, what was it? The Ozzy Albies walking off Dusty Baker in Nicaragua. That was pretty exciting. There was the other walk off last night too. So we've seen some fun stuff with the WBC. And boy, did you see those Seiya chants?
Yeah, he's looking good. I mean, if you look at his stats, you're like, man, that guy is a monster. Until you look at Shohei Ohtani, and they're unreal.
Well,
Like
it's a video game.
it literally is like a video game on easy mode. The dude's batting 833, not his OPS, his batting average. His OPS is like 2,900.
Yeah, that's pretty
Like,
epic.
that's insane. That's absolutely insane. But oh man, that Dominican Republic team is so good. I turned that game on, like literally, I turned it on, and as Didi Gregarious is hitting that home run, like I watched the first pitch I saw was the home run hit. And I went, oh, look at this. It's like the Netherlands are hanging in here. And then it just went downhill quick for the Netherlands. Uh that Dominican team is just ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the better teams in this tournament, you look at US, Japan, and Dominican. So that'll be an interesting battle to see how it all turns out.
It's funny. Did you watch that game at all? The Dominican Netherlands?
I miss most of that.
So the guy Franzen who started the game for the Netherlands, his stuff was good. Just like the mechanics are weird. Like he had a lot of swing and miss stuff, but he had so many balls that were just wild pitches or way outside. And he's not on a major league roster. He's on a club where the entire team's salary cap, the whole team, is $30,000 a month. So he's making like no money.
Hmm.
I don't know. I wouldn't be sad if the Cubs try to bring him in on a minor league deal and put him through the pitch lab. Like the stuff when he worked well, like he had swing and miss stuff. It's just like it's like I couldn't quite see what he was doing, but whoever the announcer was saying that uh he has way too much movement on his front shoulder and um but the stuff was there and like it cost you nothing. I, like that's what I love about WBC is some guys that just are gonna shine and earn themselves a little money. Maybe not as starters, but whatever they're making now, pay raise.
Yeah, it's those guys versus the former major leaguers that haven't pitched in ages. Like when Vance Worley came out to pitch for Great Britain last night, I'm like, Vance Worley, that guy hasn't pitched since like 2017.
Uh, but it's but it has been fun. Hmm, I have liked it so far, and I haven't watched a ton. I just signed up for the Fox One app. I ponied up for it to watch the WBC, and I so far so good, worthwhile.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, but right now, uh, Pool A, Puerto Rico and Cuba undefeated. Italy and the United States and Mexico undefeated.
Yeah,
Uh,
Mexico's winning right now.
yeah. Um, Japan undefeated. Dominican Republic and Venezuela undefeated. So it's I do love this so far. Like I wish that this could be something that's you know uh every single is this gonna be every year or is it every couple of years?
It's every couple of years.
It'd be nicer if it was every year or every other year to give it a little break.
Yeah, because it started in what, 2006? 2009, somewhere in the mid late 2000s. I remember back to 2009. And then 2017 I remember well because that was when Baez had that no look tag where he was just pointing at his catcher. Wasn't it Yachty who threw that ball?
Yeah.
But I'll never forget that. And Jose Quintana pitched really, really well in that WBC.
Uh, so but yeah, I love this. It's been a lot of fun. Yeah, Mexico's clobbering Brazil.
Yeah.
It is funny though. Uh, oh, so I brought up I hate when ESPN just puts loud pop-ups as soon as you open up the box score. Just like, "Bah!" Yeah. So it's fun. I can't wait to talk more about WBC. And now they got the app. I can watch that while I'm on calls at work.
There you go.
Um, you know, I want to talk a little White Sox if you don't mind.
That's fine.
So Shane Smith has already been named opening day starter, not surprising.
Nope.
But the least surprising thing so far. And it's looking like there's a three-person race for that center fielder spot. Um, Everson Pereira and Brooks Baldwin, who are more corner guys, but I think they're fast enough to probably play and not kill you in center field. Um, and then Luis Angel Acuna, like which is weird because he's neither a switch hitter nor a center fielder. He's a he only bats one side of the plate and he's a shortstop. But I think depending on how they view this, because the bat's probably better with Brooks Baldwin. But if you feel confident on the way some of your other younger players are hitting, I think Acuna is probably your better option as a fielder, and that's going to help your pitchers out more.
Yeah.
So it'll be curious to see how that plays out. And I think you probably want to play Acuna as much as possible because he's a young guy.
No, I don't disagree. I mean, you traded Luis Robert for him in that package. He was part of it. So I guess you see what you have there.
Also, the top 30 from MLB.com, the top 30 prospects came out for the White Sox. The new list is Braden Montgomery's not your number one, Noah Schultz. Both of those guys probably come up this year at some point.
I think so.
Caleb Bonnemer is your number three. Hagen Smith, four, who's probably going to come up this year. Billy Carlson, five. Tanner McDougal, number six, who's probably going to make it up sometime this year. Jaden Fauske, Christian Opper, Sam Antonacci, and Kyle Lodice round out your top 10. And you're going to see potentially three, four of those guys up this year. But I want to talk about Caleb Bonnemer. I didn't know a ton about him, and I started watching him, and he's an exciting player. He was in his first pro year of baseball last year. He was the MVP of the Carolina A League, and batted 280. Slash line was 281, 400, 458. He's a plus power guy, and with a potential five tools. He's probably going to be your third baseman or maybe a corner outfielder, but probably a third baseman. You're probably looking at him, and he just turned like 20 years old, so he's young. But that bat looks promising already. But you're probably not going to see him for a couple of seasons, probably like 2, 3, 4 seasons, around when he turns 23, 24-ish. But that's a guy to keep an eye on. I don't know if he'll jump up to your number one prospect because I think after the draft that changes the calculus.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
he's like the comp on him is probably Gunnar Henderson.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I don't know much about him, so that's interesting.
yeah, so I was doing a little reading on him. So the White Sox are a really interesting case, and it's gonna. I want to see how things start to play out and how the transition of ownership is going to when it's going to start taking a hold. When you're not going to see Jerry moves and you start seeing the new owner moves.
Mhm.
And I know there's a definite point when those things get accelerated. But in the meantime, I wonder if we start to see signs of are you willing to spend? And like we talked about is, if that salary floor goes in, the White Sox might have to spend like 70 to $100 million next year.
Mm-hmm.
So it forces you to probably go out and overpay for a frontline pitcher.
Yeah, absolutely. That is something that I think a lot of people have their eyes on is how that transition plays out.
Scoople.
You think he'll start again the WBC? There's a lot of speculation.
He did not sound confident that he was going to. I don't think he wants to.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if he doesn't.
I think he wants to just make a lot of money. And he's going to make a lot of money next year, but I think he wants that long-term deal. So, why put more miles on that arm if you don't have to?
Oh yeah, he's going to make generational money.
Yeah, the White Sox can afford it next year. If the cap goes in or the floor goes in.
You know he's just gonna go to the Dodgers, right?
Well, no, if they put that hard cap in, they can't.
Yeah, right.
Like I think they're trying to. I think the rest of the league is annoyed with the Dodgers. I don't think the players union or the league are necessarily annoyed, but I think like the other 29 owners are annoyed at that, and I think they're going to close those gaps. So I think a lot of that infighting with the collective bargaining agreement is going to be not only the players union versus the owners, but also the one set of owners versus the other set of
Oh
owners.
yeah, it's gonna be owners versus players. That's
It's
how
going
I
to be
put
a
it. Yeah.
Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
Like I think that's what makes it complicated.
I agree. It's yeah, exactly. There's not just two solidified sides here. I'm 100% with you.
Yeah. So, um, it's gonna. I mean, I think that's gonna get ugly. If it was just the two sides, I think you know what the happy compromise is. You just got to finalize where those numbers are. It's a cap and a floor, and
Yes.
it's probably not a hard cap. It's probably a stiffer penalties of luxury tax to subsidize the lower spending teams. So I think that's, but it's the other owners, I don't think are going to want that soft cap, and I think that's going to be where the players union will concede.
It's not a hard hat. It's a soft hat.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, I mean, so far spring training, not a ton going on. I haven't watched very much spring training because I've been watching WBC, but um, I the White Sox are showing something, and again, this is you got to take spring training with a grain of salt. How many times have we seen a guy just look like he's going to be MVP all through spring training and then go 0 for 5 on opening day with 5 strikeouts? Like it's they don't always translate
No,
well.
it doesn't. It's just that, if you're young, you're trying to make a roster, or you're trying to make an impression, or you're trying to really get your feet wet facing major league players. If you're a veteran, you're just trying to get, your swings back, your pitches in, slowly ramping up your velocity, your types of pitches you're throwing. It's all just practice and warm up. But I watched today's Cubs game, the on marquee against the Giants, and it was a bullpen day. And I mean, for what it's worth, the pen arms that came in that are actually going to make the team looked pretty good. Hobie Milner looked good. Phil Maton looked good. Caleb Thielbar looked good. So, take that for what it's worth, I guess.
Yeah, I hate bullpen days. Um, it's not my cup of tea. But it's with the White Sox, I feel like it's not just one or two guys that are just carrying everything. I think a lot of those young players are just looking good, which gives you hope for once the season starts that somebody's going to be able to maintain that.
Right.
And the Cubs got reamed out for bad base running the other day.
Yeah, Craig Counsell was actually yelling at people. That
Rightfully
must
so. You've got enough veterans on this team that you should not be having stupid base running mistakes.
No, I mean, and I wrote about that for Shy City Sports because I was writing the story about how, according to Jesse Rogers, he was raising his voice, and they eventually asked Craig Counsell about it. And you saw right away that Jesse Rogers said deservedly so when they were getting yelled at. So we saw some big base running blunders already in spring training. We saw it against the White Sox. We saw that one game against the Giants where they got the triple play. And you have too many high IQ guys on this team to be making those kinds of mistakes. And like Craig Counsell's like, all right, fucking enough. Get your shit together. Like this
And
can't
it's
be a thing.
it's one thing like you can be like, it's spring training and there's a lot of your guys are at the WBC.
They're just
Um,
getting into shape or whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
but if you don't correct it now, it lingers.
Right, exactly. And you already know that you have multiple guys on this team that should be elite base runners. Crow Armstrong with his speed, Nico Horner with his speed and IQ, Dansby Swanson with his heads up, base running abilities. Like, you have plenty of guys, even the guys who aren't fast. Like, okay, is Alex Bregman or Ian Happ going to add positive run value when it comes to advancing with speed? No, but they should be smart enough players where they're not going to make the mistakes. So,
Yeah, they're not going to make stupid mistakes. They're going to make some heads up, opportune time, plays on the base path.
Exactly. And I mean, you can look at some of the low level metrics on some of those veterans. It's less about mistakes or no mistakes. It's about, okay, how much value do you add as a base runner? Alex Bregman is not going to as easily make it first to third as other guys with more speed. Same with Ian Happ. And they're going to have more trouble scoring on their physical abilities going from second to home on a shallow hit
And
ball.
the Ian Happ one is due to father time.
Right,
When he
exactly.
was younger, he was a fast guy.
Exactly.
Like he's not slow by any stretch. He's lost a step or two.
Right, he doesn't have that speed anymore. But the point being is they're still not going to be making, you don't expect those guys to make stupid mistakes on the base paths. Carelessness. That's what you don't have and shouldn't have from any of them.
Yeah, I mean the baseline for your team is absolute stellar defense and heads up base running.
Yes.
That should be the absolute starter.
You're built on fundamentals.
Yeah, you should be exceptional at fundamentals because if you're not, you're going to see how fast the rest of this division catches up to you or passes you.
I think this division is going to be a lot better than people think.
I think so too. I don't. Somebody's. I mean, we know the Cardinals are probably going to be terrible.
They're the one team I'm not even thinking about.
It's either the Reds or the Pirates. One of them is going to falter, and I think it's going to be a three-horse race, and one of them might be Buttercup.
Buttercup.
I can't see the Cubs, the Brewers, the Reds, and the Pirates all being really good. I think one of them is going to falter.
Could come down to injuries, could come down to ability. I
It
mean,
could just come down to it's not the Pirates' year. Like they've got some just absolute superstar guys in the wings. They just might not be their year to be superstars.
right, I agree. What I do look at the Pirates though is okay, you got Paul Skeens, you got Bubba, you have a really good rotation overall. Like if Mitch Keller is your third guy, that's a solid third guy in a rotation. And look at some of the bats they added, like Brandon Lau, and they added Marcelo Zuna, and O'Neill Cruz has a lot of holes in his swing, but he can hit the ball awfully hard, and he will get into one every now
And
and
that
then.
bat speed is so quick.
Oh yeah, it's like lightning strike.
He's, I mean, it's a much different swing, but it's a lot like Javi Baez, where the bat speed is so fast that he just hits laser beams
When he hits them.
when he hits it. Both of them, same thing, when they hit it.
Yes, right, exactly. So I think that team is going to take a significant step forward. I really do. I'm not saying they're going to win the division. I'm not saying they're going to the World Series, but I do think that is not going to be a joke team anymore. And
No, definitely not. I didn't mean any of those four teams would be a joke. I just think somebody falters at some point, either injuries or just like a Marcelo Zuna. He's old. Maybe that he doesn't have it this year.
yeah,
And you're not winning those close games. And like I don't think any of those four teams are going to be bad by any stretch.
no,
It's just
because
it's
the
just I
Red the
think
Reds got some interesting dudes.
yeah, I think either the Reds or the Pirates, one of them is going to be there towards until the end, hanging around.
Well, and I don't. If you're going to look at the difference between the Reds and the Pirates and the Cubs and the Brewers have that elite defense. You can't really say the same about the Reds across the diamond.
Yeah,
And I mean, with the Pirates, I don't think it's like the worst fielding team ever, but I don't think it's great. I
and that
mean,
matters.
Marcelo Ozuna is a DH.
It matters unless you have everybody in your rotation is a swing and miss guy,
Well, yes, correct.
and you've got a couple of those in that Pirate rotation.
Yeah, you got Paul Skeens.
Who's a super swing and miss guy. Um, but I just I think just little things like that are going to hinder them. And like I said, it's not bad by any stretch. I think everybody's going to be, or I think a lot of people are going to be surprised I think people that have been paying close attention will not be surprised, but I think a lot of the lay fans are going to be surprised what how many good teams are in this division.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, looking at some of the from last year's defensive metrics, the Cubs were second in defensive runs saved, 84. Pittsburgh was 10th, so they were pretty decently high up there. Cincinnati was 20th. That's defensive runs saved, going to outs above average. Yeah, Pittsburgh's defense is better than I thought. So they were eighth in outs above average. The Cubs were fourth. The Reds were middle of the pack. They were 16th. And then fielding run value per StatCast, the Cubs were second. The Brewers were third. Pittsburgh, middle of the pack, 13th. Cincinnati, middle-ish of the pack, 20th. So, yeah, I mean, you don't have awful fielding teams here, like Los Angeles Angels. They were awful. Washington was awful. But all these teams, even though the Cardinals roster is a lot different now, everyone in the Central last year was at least respectable at fielding. So this year it'll be, one of those things where I can say confidently the Cubs will have a better defense than Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, but I'm also not going to say like a team like Pittsburgh is a slouch by any means defensively.
Right. Also, it sounds like Ian Happ will not be back.
Yeah, I think that you're going to be looking at extending people, and I'm a big Ian Happ guy. I am. But if you were to tell me that the guys they would extend would be Nico and Seiya, I would be perfectly happy with that.
Yeah, I think I've told this story before, but I'll just tell it again because that's how I do. So I have a friend that lives in the New Orleans area, and when his kids were little, he would bring them to the their AAA team, the Zephyrs. I don't know what they're called now, but they were called the Zephyrs at the time. I think they changed their name, but he would take his kids to the game, and he would ask friends that he had who are fans of the major league team that was coming to town, like, "Hey, who should we try to get ball signed from?" He's like, "When I take my kids, they go up, and a lot of times those players will sign." So the one year I was like, "You definitely want to get Chris Bryant. That's the dude." And he said Chris Bryant was great. Signed a bunch of stuff, and he mailed me a Chris Bryant signed baseball. He's like, "Thanks." He's like, they got a bunch of stuff, and it was a day game, low turnout, and there was not that many kids there because it was a weekday day game and raining. He's like, Chris Bryant just signed whatever the kids had. And he's like, the next year, Chris Bryant was obviously up, and he's like, the Iowa Cubs are coming to town. Who should I get now? I'm like, Ian Happ. And it was another situation where it was a weekday game. I think it was nighttime though, but the turnout wasn't insane because it's a AAA game on a weeknight. And he's like, Ian Happ refused to sign for my kids. And his kids at the time were probably like 10. Like they weren't like 17 or something. They were still young. And Ian Happ refused to sign. So he's like, "Yeah, sorry, I was gonna get you another ball." And he's like, "But he refused to sign anything."
Hmm.
I was always disappointed at that. And I'm sure that's not indicative of his character. Who knows what was going on that day? Maybe he was in a slump and um, maybe he was late for something. But yeah, I just that story always sticks in my craw. In my craw with my chaw.
John Lackey, if you would have asked him for an autograph, he just would have spat Shaw in your face.
You'll get that and you'll like it. He's like,
Oh,
he's like, "Do you want Buttercup's autograph?"
no. No, I don't. You'll get my John Hancock.
He's like, "I change it. You can have a John Lackey, not a John Hancock."
Oh, brother. That's hilarious. But yeah, just looking at the situation, you're not going to extend all three most likely. And I think Nico Horner is like the guy you can't let get away.
Probably not.
And then I would really consider extending Seiya Suzuki because I just think over the past few years he's really come into his own.
I think so. It's going to see what his injuries look like. and what his fielding looks like. Is he a long-term DH where you don't have a DH spot? And maybe Ballesteros doesn't look good. And you're like, oh, I need to sign him. But if his defense doesn't look good, or he's getting nicked and injured playing the field, and you're not confident with that defense, and Ballesteros looks good, maybe that becomes a luxury.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely circumstances you're going to be evaluating this year. I mean, with Seiya Suzuki, his spot on the team, and what the outfield's going to look like. One idea is, and this is based off a small sample size, so I'm not saying it's a good idea or a great idea, but last year when Ian Happ was hurt for a little bit, Seiya Suzuki played left field. He wasn't a Gold Glover, but I thought he held his own pretty well considering the circumstances. I'm again, it's a small sample size. I'm not saying right now it's the ideal long-term solution, but let's say Ian Happ doesn't come back next year. You feel comfortable putting Seiya Suzuki in left field and Moises Ballesteros shines as a DH. Maybe that is a solid scenario for the Cubs.
I think I think you have to let that play out a little bit before you do that. I'm not opposed to
For
it.
sure, for sure.
It's you've got to see how things play out.
Absolutely. 100%.
I don't want to talk Bulls because they
No,
stink.
I don't. There's nothing to talk about.
Um, but I do want to talk about the Hawks.
I do too.
First of all, rest in peace, Troy Murray.
Yeah, really,
I
really
It
sad.
sucked waking up to that news.
Yeah. Great
Um,
player, great broadcaster, great dude. Did so much for the community, was an ambassador to the team. He fought like hell throughout his cancer, which he had for like 5 years now, but he never gave up. He never gave in. He fought like crazy. It's an inspiration to the fans around the Blackhawks. So Troy Murray's going to be dearly, dearly missed.
Absolutely. Mhm. So rest in peace to him, and condolences to his family and friends and loved ones. Um, we had the trade deadline that
Hmm.
came and went, and nothing too crazy, but Connor Murphy gone, not surprising. Jason Dickinson gone, Colton Dock gone, and Nick Foligno gone.
You called it. Good on you. You
Um,
called it.
I think it's going to work out well. He's going to go to a good team, play with his brother. And it leaves the Blackhawks with a big hole. I don't think they're going to have a captain for the rest of the year. It's just going to be
No.
Bedard and Bertuzzi as the alternates,
And I think Bedard will be named captain in the offseason. I
probably.
think that's where we're heading. I mean, and here's the thing. Why would you want to name a captain now?
Yeah, I don't think you should.
No, I don't think so either. Especially like, okay, your veteran guys are Tyler Bertuzzi, Teuvo Teravainen, uh, and those are your guys who are like, okay, you could see them wearing an A as a veteran. You have a few other veteran guys, obviously, but what other veterans would you make a captain outside of Tyler Bertuzzi? Really, like
Brian
nobody.
Donato.
I
I was joking. Yeah, I don't think there is anybody.
yeah.
So I think, for the most part, the Blackhawks got a solid return. So what you're looking at right now for the next 3 seasons is this coming draft. You've got your first and potentially Florida's first, depending on if it's top 10 protected. You'll have your second, the Islanders second, and Toronto's second. Your third, Ottawa's fourth, Florida's seventh, and your seventh. 2027, you have your first, the Oilers first, which is top 12 protected. And there's some caveats to that. If they trade their 2028 first rounder for somebody else, then it becomes with no protection for 2027. And if they don't, and it's a top 12 protected, they would get the 2028 first rounder. You have your second rounder, Vancouver's second rounder, your third, your sixth, your seventh. And then in 2028, you have your first, your second, the Oilers' second, your third, your fourth, San Jose's fourth, your fifth, and your sixth. They've got a shit ton of picks.
They do. They have a
A
lot.
ton. And you're going to see them, I think, start to take big swings rather than safe swings.
You think so? Because that's not what other people are saying.
You think they're going to go all in for somebody? I just don't think you can have that many first round picks and develop them, and then unless you're just never planning to pay anybody. Because I mean, look, next year this is probably your defense. It's Vlasic, Crevier, Kaiser, Rinzel, Levshinov, Korchinski, Nathan Del Mastro. Like,
Wait, are you saying that you think they're not going to go in on big players with draft picks using draft capital, or they are? They are, they aren't.
I think they're going to take big swings with like super high upside younger players in the draft, where they're going to be longer
Okay,
to come.
I'm sorry, I completely misinterpreted that. I thought you were saying making big swings, just moves in general.
No, no, no. I think like, who was the guy that they drafted that was still in high school? That's the didn't know if he was going to play football or hockey. Like,
Oh yeah, the guy that won the championship,
yeah, like
the
I think
quarterback.
like
Yeah,
that's a big swing kind of guy because he's first round talent, but you got him in like what the second, and
right.
I think those are the kind of risky moves you can take because you've
You
got
got a lot of capital.
you've got so much capital that I think you can just really be risky. A guy you don't know if he's going to be able to come over from Russia. All right, who cares? If he does, awesome. If not, you like
I don't know if I'd say who cares, but at least
yeah, I don't mean that. It's just, but I think it's when you've got 7 first rounders in the next 3 years and 9 second rounders, like you've got the ability to swing and miss and not have it hurt you that much.
Connor Bedard is stranded on an island. He can't play. Oh, who cares?
Um, and then looking at you've got your young players who are going to be on like the forwards next year. It's Bedard, Nazer, Green, and Moore. And then the vets you have are Tavo, Bertuzzi, Burkowski, Donato, the guy you just traded for. And then you don't know what's going to happen with Frondell and Katsarov and Lardis and Slaggert and Mikhaev. Like there's not a lot of open spots for you to bring in people without blocking young players' paths.
Yeah, I mean, I think every indication is they're going to take as much time with this as possible, though I still kind of think they need to start really pushing things, but
Yeah, I
I,
want to see an accelerate. I don't need them to just, you know, stop
inch
what they're
by
doing,
inch by
but I
inch.
think
But
I
yeah,
think
no, there's a
you've
happy
got to take a
medium.
big step forward here.
Yeah, I think there's a happy medium with that, and I'm still not really expecting much this offseason, but I mean, you're pretty much having embraced the youth movement now. I mean, Nick Foligno, you did right by him. He's gone. Connor Murphy's gone. Uh, Jason Dickinson is gone. Your captains and assistant captains have been basically all flipped by this point with
Yeah,
everything that they've done.
I think you have the cap room to make a big swing on a player
Oh
in
yeah,
free
I mean,
agency.
yeah, and think about it too is you weaponized your cap to get more capital in this draft. You also shed some. You retained some. You used up all your retaining slots, but you also shed some cap. Like Nick Foligno, like his salary, his 4.5, whatever that is, that's completely off the books. I think you retained half of Connor Murphy's salary, I believe. Yeah, because it was like two some million. He was making
Yeah,
like four and a half.
yeah. So
So.
they retained what they could, and they're going to have a tough time getting to that floor. They got to start paying dudes. I mean, I know the goal is to get a Bedard extension, and that's going to eat up a big chunk. But you
And
still
it's
got
it's
so
gonna
much room.
happen. I'm very confident it's gonna happen.
I have a feeling it'll get announced with the captaincy.
I bet it will too. I
Like,
would not be
like we
surprised.
just signed Connor Bedard to a long-term extension. He's our new captain.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I'm just looking right now at the cap. So here are your veterans. Tyler Bertuzzi. He's tied with Andre Burakovsky next year, making 5.5. Tava will be making 5.4. Ryan Donato, 4 million. And then Andrew Magapane, who you just picked up. I mean, that was weaponizing the cap. That was saying, hey, we'll take on this not so great deal because he was struggling in Edmonton. So they were able to take that salary and that contract on to get some draft capital out of that, which was nice, in my opinion. I thought that was a solid move. And then obviously Colton Dock, I liked him, but I think he was probably realistically a borderline AHL, NHL player that was going to be a restricted free agent. So you didn't
You
feel
look
like,
at it and he's a bottom six guy no
right.
matter what. And you look at who the young players you have and the veterans you have under contract is, who is he pushing out next year? Like it's like a numbers game.
Right.
I like him, but I'm not worried. Like I uh Kontsarov and Frundell and Oliver Moore, like I like those guys way better.
Oh yeah, I mean, trading Colton Dock doesn't crazily alternate the future going forward. And again, you got a draft pick out of it. So I mean, the fact that you can flip Jason Dickinson and a borderline guy for taking on 3 some million, yeah, yeah, you'll take that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and technically, if we're talking about veterans, technically Ryan Ellis is going to be paid 6.25 million by you guys next year,
Fair.
but Shea Weber will be off the books.
That helped you a lot, and if that's
But
off the
that
books.
but that was everybody I just mentioned with Burakovsky, Bertuzzi, Teuvo Teravainen, because Ilya Mikheyev is going to be gone. He's going to be unless they bring him
I
back.
have a
But
feeling they're gonna. I heard they offered him a contract. He said no. I think they want him back.
he might be back. Just as of right now, he's going to be a free agent.
Yes, but
And
I
then,
think they're gonna push to keep him.
yep. And then Ryan Donato and Magapane, and that's it. Because everyone else on the roster is young and have only been playing a few years and aren't making much money at all. I mean, obviously Frank Nazar got the extension, but he's still a young player. Ryan Green making under $1 million, Oliver Moore, Landon Slaggert, Nick Lardis, who's currently on the roster, I can imagine is going to be on the roster next year. And then, Alex Vlasic, he's got some experience and he's going to be making 4.6, but he's only 24 right now. It's not like he's a 28, 29-year-old veteran defenseman.
Right. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I think I've said my piece.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, Spotify, etc. Share this podcast with your friends, help grow the show. Follow us on social media at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com, or Swerski _ sports _ podcast on Instagram, or ShyFanPat2 for Alex on Twitter /X, or AlexanderJPatCreative.com for all the cool stuff that Alex does. And again, thank you so much for listening. And until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like
Remember, New Yorkers, smoking crack is not legal on planes. Bears 31 to -7.
the Bears. Oh, when the Bears go bearing down.